Big Zay.
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
Well, you're the man. You've got the main story in town, for God's sake. The Bears finally getting a game in here. They're going to be heading back to division play, going into Minnesota. This will be the first time that Ben Johnson gets to play a team for the second time in a year. Obviously, you do that against all your division opponents, but the loss earlier in the year now gets an opportunity to be avenged, and maybe you win your first ever game in the NFC North.
Yeah, so that makes it a big one for the Bears. We talked about a little bit yesterday. After starting 0-2 in the division, it's going to be really difficult to hunt down either the Lions or the Packers if you keep losing in the division games, if they fall to 0-3. And this has been one of, not their only, but one of their big problems for a long stretch now, 3-18 in their last 21 games in the division. And those 18 losses by an average of about 10 points apiece. So as you can remember back, a lot of rather lopsided affairs too. So here's the opportunity, and I think I mentioned it yesterday too. It's a Vikings team that I'm not sure they've been able to maintain the good mojo that they've had for quite some time under Kevin O'Connell. Things just seem off up there, and when they can hit, they're still quite formidable. Going to Detroit and beating the Lions just 2 weeks ago. When they're not on their game this season, they've looked quite poor. So I think it's an opportunity for Ben Johnson to do that, and let's go out and get the first division win. That's improve the Bears to 7-3 and keep them marching forward.
So I look at the defense, Brad, and I think it doesn't have the certainty that you'd want midway through the season. They're in the bottom 5 scoring defense, bottom 5 yards per rush, yards per pass, and yet they lead the NFL in takeaways. It doesn't make sense, I think, from a football traditionalist point of view. At the same time, the takeaways, it's all about that. What do you think what is the biggest indicator on Sunday? What will it be to say this defense is up for the challenge today, or this defense is being effective versus it's not working?
Well, we can talk about all these other stats, but if they're able to get takeaways in bunches against JJ McCarthy, it's going to put the Vikings in a real tough spot. I think that Kevin O'Connell is going to want to try to run the football as well as he possibly can with what's a two-headed operation now with Aaron Jones back for, I think this will be his 4th game back after an IR stint. And Jordan Mason, if they can run the ball like some of these Bears opponents have had a high degree of success of this season, then you can keep JJ McCarthy out of those situations where he's been inaccurate. He's had trouble reading it out. He's been uncomfortable in the pocket. All the telltale problems that young quarterbacks in the league have that Bears fans have seen too much of in the last 10 or 20 years. That's what Minnesota's got going on with JJ right now. So I think they need to try to run the ball. And can the Bears handle that? Can they handle that with a too high shell as well? Because if they have to put an extra guy in the box a lot, then you've got to worry a little bit or even a lot of bit about Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the outside. Addison, a guy who missed the Week 1 game off a suspension.
Brad, we talked a little bit yesterday, didn't really get into it, about the idea that Caleb Williams has run for 50 yards in each of the last two games, 50 yards plus in each of the last two games. And now here they are. You're kind of looking at this this possibility of a Viking team that would be really aware of that. According to Coach Wannstedt, we were talking to him. He said he felt that Brian Flores will try to stop any kind of outside runs and force the Bears to run between the tackles, which may well slow down any runs from Caleb Williams. I hope so anyway. And it may mean more featuring of Monungai over Swift if they try to do that. What do you anticipate happening with that? And you know, the Dennis Allen yesterday talked about how multidimensional quarterbacks cause such headaches for a defense.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a quarterback that can break a defense when it's 3rd down and 6, and you've got tight coverage, and you've got a rusher breakthrough who comes close to the quarterback, and then an alley pops up and the guy's able to run for 12 yards. And that's a killer. The defense is nearly off the field, and then they've been able to move the chains. Lamar Jackson, I think, had 36 yards rushing against the Minnesota Vikings last week at US Bank Stadium. I don't think he had a carry for more than 10 yards. So the Vikings will be mindful of what Caleb can do on the ground. But it could be a factor. And if Caleb's able to get out and run for 35-plus yards, it could be a big factor in this game. One of the things I think the Vikings have been disappointed about this season is they went with a couple real veterans to sort of help anchor that defensive line in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. And I think they've been a little bit better of late, but they probably haven't provided the impact that perhaps the Vikings were hoping to get with a couple highly successful players that have been going at it for quite a long time. Again, in talking to people, I think they've been a little bit better lately, maybe kind of settling in what Flores wants them to do. But earlier in the season, you looked at some of the games and you're like, wow, maybe they're not getting the return on the investment with the guys up front on the D-line.
How do you think that Caleb Williams will be in a better position to handle all that Brian Flores will throw at him? He's expecting it. They talk about it openly. Ben Johnson has a very good record against Flores-led defenses. Caleb Williams does not. What do you expect in terms of that chess match on Sunday?
Yeah, I think the Bears are going to feel like they've done all the homework that they can potentially do. Like they're not going to leave a worksheet unfinished before this game, before this test. What makes them feel like he's better in a better position to handle this time around? I mean, just Bears' run defense rushing offense is completely different than what Caleb had by his side in week 1. Like, it totally different. And the Bears have gone from really struggling to run the ball earlier in the year to all of a sudden they're number 2 in the NFL in rushing. Over the last 5 games, the Bears have rushed for 917 yards. The only Bears team to do that since Walter Payton was in the backfield in 1986 was they pulled that off in a stretch back in 2022 when all they could do was run with Justin Fields.
That was all the quarterback. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, right. And so it wasn't – this is more traditional. The quarterback's helping, but this is more traditional. Like, that powerful running game was completely missing in the opener. So I think that can be a difference here for Caleb. this time around, and it needs to be, because the Vikings did a nice job against the Bears running game. That was one of the things, I think I mentioned it earlier in the week, that the coaching staff really lamented, is that the Vikings were, with a light box, were able to really shut down the Bears running game in that first meeting, week 1, Monday Night Football.
This segment with Brad Biggs is sponsored by Est-Wing Professional Tools, made in the USA for over 100 years. Estwing.com. Brad, we talked yesterday about the various themes of the game this week, the Bears in the division, a piece of first place, etc. But really, maybe the greatest theme is the one we've kind of been touching upon, which is the Bears play caller against the Vikings defensive coordinator. Whether whether Ben Johnson is going to beat Brian Flores, whether Ben Johnson in his last game in a dome this year is going to be able to pull off some things that are unexpected. How do you see that matchup? How do you see this game going? You can, at this point, probably give us your pick.
Yeah, Flores has been tough on the Bears. The Vikings, since Flores became the defensive coordinator in 2023, are 4-1 against the Bears. That one win by the Bears was one of those super gross 12-10 games. But it's a new era for the Bears, and we're learning a little bit more about it on a weekly basis. And like I said, something seems amiss, just not quite right for the Vikings this season. They remain dangerous on any given Sunday, but something seems off a little bit. So I picked the Bears. I don't have a super high degree of confidence given some of their issues, particularly giving up a ton of points to just about anybody. They have struggled against defensively against quarterbacks that aren't great, and JJ McCarthy has got a world of talent, but no one's going to describe him as great at this point. But with the Bears' ability to run the football, with Caleb being incredible in the crunch moments of the fourth quarter, with Caleb taking care of the football this season, and on the flip side, JJ's hasn't done a great job of that, and McCarthy had one really bad pick last week against the Ravens. I felt like everything was kind of pushing me towards a Bears pick for this week, 28-24. And if the Bears win this one, check out what the 6-3 Lions have got going on. That's Sunday night at Philadelphia. So that'll be
okay.
Lions are gonna have their hands full. Although the Eagles are coming off a short week following the Monday night, either a defensive gem or snooze fest, depending on how you look at it, at Lambeau Field.
So Biggs Time predicts waking up Monday morning with the Bears, undisputed first-place team in the NFC North.
No. I mean, Dave, you're going to have to, commercial break, roll back the tape, listen to what I said. I predicted the Bears to win, and I noted that the Lions are going to have their hands full Sunday night. I'm not offering predictions on a game I haven't.
I don't know how you stay comfortable sitting on the fence as often as you do.
Oh man, I don't know how you can sleep at night when you twist people's words so regularly.
Okay, but just kidding. But Brad,
a lot of people wonder how Mr. David sleeps.
Brad, back to the thing that I think is very interesting, and I want to amplify it because it's great research. And it's stunning to me, really. Not since 1986, the Bears have put together a five-game stretch where they've had this many rushing yards, except for 2022, which I think is a little bit of an asterisk because of the Justin Fields factor. But their running game hasn't been this dominant for a five-game stretch since 86.
That's what I got off Pro Football a reference yesterday.
That's great.
Either
That's
yesterday or
interesting.
the night before. Yeah, like and they've just and the yards per carry has been huge as well. Like it's not like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I mean, they're throwing the ball too, and it's just kind of starting to click. So if they can, avoid some of the second and third quarter lulls, if they can not continue to find themselves in a position where they're backed into a corner in the fourth quarter, then they'll really have something going, because that's not sustainable to try to rely on fourth quarter magic. I think even the biggest Caleb Williams fans out there would probably admit that. So they've got to be better as a whole throughout the game.
And that would support this idea that the offensive line not only has been improved, but they've played together now and they're playing well together and they've improved as a group. And that's one of the elements of this game that is so interesting, is thinking about what the Bears were like in the second week of the season and how much better they've become. Part of that is, well, I would argue that the majority of that is on offense. And I think that we talk about the quarterback quite a bit, but the offensive line play as well. So that kind of includes everything.
I think they're getting the return on the investment, and Ben Johnson sort of made note of that a little bit when he spoke on Monday. And one of the things is they swapped out the left tackles, what was it, late in the second quarter of that Week 4 game at Las Vegas. And other than that, they really haven't had to swap guys out, change guys. And they've had musical chairs for the past couple seasons,
right,
with more of the changes probably being injury related than performance. Like they just kept suffering injuries on the line. So, and I saw a statistic last week, so I haven't seen an updated one on it, but they were maybe around top 10 in terms of number of snaps for your most consistent unit on the field. So for, whatever your most used grouping of offensive linemen was, the number of snaps that they have. And because they haven't had a lot of turnover other than the left tackle move, they were in pretty good shape there. And so that helps. I think that helps the growth and development of that group, because the rushing numbers aren't anywhere near where they're at right now if they're not playing well. The sack percentage, sacks per pass attempt, is now, we talked about it being cut nearly in half a week or two ago. It's now less than half of what it was last season. The quarterback's he's been sacked 4 times in the last 4 games. Before
we let you go, Brad, quickly, Dennis Allen talked about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka yesterday. Do you expect him to get more snaps this week because he's more accustomed to the defense?
They've got, what they feel like there? They feel like they're making the best out of a situation that isn't great because of the injuries, with competition, allowing guys to compete for that playing time. So I think that begins on the practice field this week, maybe extends to the first half of the game. Like, who's playing well? Does somebody have a little bit of a hot hand? You're still going to rotate them, but Booker being in the mix. Guys, that Austin Booker start this past Sunday against the Giants was his first game. You might have been there, Dave. It was the 6A 2020 state championship in Indiana. That was the last game the guy had started. He did not start last year as a rookie.
You may have been
there. He did not start in college. So Booker got the start. He got a bunch of playing time. I think we'll see Tryon get a little more work moving forward, but that's going to be game flow. I asked similar questions this week, and they talked about having a competition, one that Tryon's certainly part of. The thing they really like about him to this point is they've discovered they think he's super smart, and picking things up has come quickly and naturally to him.
That's great. All righty, Bigsy, thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Brad. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, guys.
You too.